Welcome to We Need to Talk Now, presented by AT&T. We are with you live right after that game one, right here with Erica L. Ayala. How you feeling, Erica?
Listen, I mean, I got things going on just like everybody in game one. Hello? Like,
Man,
I'm telling you,
I ain't
folks
got
is
a
hurt.
nerve left. I not a one. They are all gone. But we're so excited to be right here with you live, talking all about this game. But make sure that you subscribe, like, do all of the things. You want to be locked in because we're gonna have a bunch of these as the finals continues to commence. So you see all of this down there. Well, it was there. Emma took it off. You see all of this down here, and you want to make sure that you're locked in. We're going to have a QR code too, where you can, hit it. It's right there. Go ahead, scan that QR code, and you'll get right to everything that you need to know to be locked in with us right here on We Need to Talk Now. So, Erica, let's jump right in. Okay. The Las Vegas Aces, they win game one of the WNBA Finals. What are your initial thoughts?
I mean, if game one is indicative of how the series is going to go, then I think we were all right on par with what we expected. Physical, gritty, grinded out, defensive minded game, low scoring. I did not expect so many near injuries. I don't know, folks gonna be banged up. I think that they're glad that this is, I mean, the start of the series, in that they won't have to relocate right away, because I think there's going to be a lot of treatment sessions in the next 24 hours.
I literally was like, if one more person hits the floor, if one more person, I cannot do this. I cannot do this. But I actually don't blame any, like when Sammy went straight to the back, I would too.
Right.
After the injury ridden year that everyone has had in the W, like I go straight back there to get checked out too. So, but yeah, I hope everybody is okay for game two. There was a lot going on the injury front for sure. So I'm sure we'll hear some updates about that moving forward. But when, I'm watching the game, the thing that I think of immediately when Las Vegas won, which they earned, let's be clear, but Phoenix let that one get away. They let that get away. They had a good hold on the game for most of the game.
Yep.
And then they just literally conceded 20 points off of turnovers. It was like they unraveled towards the end there, Erica.
Yeah, and that's where experience, not just finals experience, but experience as a team comes in handy for Vegas. And that is something that Phoenix does not have. They don't have that with their coach. They don't have that with each other. You have players that have been in finals, but not all of them together. Really, it's DeWanna Bonner and Alyssa Thomas that we know for sure that have played together in these kinds of situations and scenarios. And so, execution is huge at end game, making sure you're communicating things properly and clearly, and sometimes you have to keep it super simple, like pull a Dawn Staley, look at Camila Cardozo and say, shoot that thing.
Okay.
So I think that those are things, though, that Phoenix has been able to remedy. They do make changes on the fly pretty well from what we've seen. I think from their defensive schemes to, just having a little bit more grit and resilience. This is a team that I think will take this as personally as they need to until it's time for game two.
Yeah, I think so too. I have no doubt that they're going to go back, retool a little bit, watch film, talk to each other, moreover, and just know that they've got this. But Coach Tibbetts, I don't know if you saw it, right at the top of the game, he said in one of the huddles, and they caught it, that they need to catch a game at their house, right? With the 7-game series, they need to. And they sure looked like they were going to. So it was really hard to see that for them, right? But then when you pivot over to Vegas, you see a team that has been there before, like you said. So
Yep.
Very much the opposite of what you said about Phoenix, but has been there before. And when a player like Jackie Young isn't necessarily scoring in the way that we're used to her scoring, right? I think she got 10 points in the game. We have other players that step up, like a Jewel Lloyd, who came out looking like the Jewel Lloyd that we're used to seeing.
Yes, 100%. We know that it's been a trying time for Jewel Lloyd really since that season where she had the regular season scoring title. That wasn't a particularly good season for the Seattle Storm. She was playing for them at the time, but she's been a little out of sorts and not able to find her rhythm, not able to really impact games like she's wanted to, and that's followed her a few places. As that we saw that in Seattle, we saw that perhaps maybe with decisions at the Olympics, and then also early with this Vegas squad. But it's we know that she had conversations with her head coach Becky Hammon throughout the season. From what we heard from Hammon, she, that being Lloyd, actually brought up, hey, maybe I should come off of the bench and be a reserve player. And it's games like this where you have Lloyd as the veteran also working alongside a very effective Dana Evans, and they outscore Phoenix in bench points in a big way. It was bench points, were a huge factor when it came to how Vegas was able to get this game, and that's where they outperformed Phoenix in a big way. And on a night where you don't necessarily get what you want to or what you can get from a Jackie Young, that's huge. That's absolutely huge. 41-16. That's a gaudy gap. That's a huge difference.
It is an absolute huge difference. And one thing that I believe that we talked about as we came into the finals is that there needed to be a deep bench for anyone to win this title. And they certainly showed that they have that, in that, not only can people step up from the bench, but that they have an answer when they need it, right? And that's something that we have seen with the Aces, right? But maybe this season, with them having the season that they've had and having to really figure things out, and things are kind of locking into that Aces way that we know at this very moment. So, obviously the bench needs to improve. The bench points need to improve. But for Phoenix, actually, let's talk about both teams, because both teams could improve on something. But
Oh,
for
100.
Phoenix, what do you think is like the biggest thing that they need to improve on?
Turnovers. I mean, they gave up 14 turnovers, 20 points off of turnovers. They didn't turn Vegas over. Vegas only had committed 7 turnovers, and that led to 10 points off of turnovers. So you got to protect the ball. You got to protect the basketball 100%. I think that also, if you look at fast break points, they were about even. These two teams can get out in transition, but that's usually an area where Phoenix likes to dominate. And then we talked about it already, right, Alicia? Just some of it is going to scout being even over communicating at times to make sure that you can refine your shorthand and that everyone knows exactly what you're looking to do in clutch time, and at the crunch moments in the game. And that just did not happen for Phoenix. As you mentioned, they had a chance to win this game, and so they've got to buckle down and really be able to get after it, because the Aces were just able to capitalize on mistakes. They were able to create mistakes, and really weather the storm that was this Phoenix Mercury team, to then take their opportunities when they were presented.
Yeah, I would also say too, and I'm not putting the game on any one person, and especially not putting the game on her because she did have a hand injury. But I felt like Alyssa Thomas, um, she looked as strong as ever. She definitely was doing kind of things all over the place like she does. She had a quiet line. She always does that. You look at the end and you're like, oh, hold on, triple double, like nearly a triple double, whatever the case may be. But I will say her body language was, to me, in the first half, just a little bit off. They kind of all had a little, besides Ka, a little discombobulated, a little bit. I felt like just a little bit. But again, we're in game 1 of the finals. I kind of expect that a little bit.
Yeah.
But I would just say, I think she scored 10 points in the first half and just 5 in the second. She ended up with 15, 10, and 9, which is not a bad line by any means.
Nope. Almost a
But
triple double.
yeah, it's not a bad line by any means. But I just felt like in that first half, there was just, and it wasn't just her, but there was a little bit of adjusting going on.
Yeah. And I think that goes back to experience. I will say, Alyssa Thomas has been here before, and I think it's a good observation that you make, because Alyssa Thomas is the kind of player who, she's always going to be expressive and react, but it's not always that her reactions or even her comments are explicitly targeted at anyone. She's just kind of a talker. Just in general, I might know that because I played that way too. I don't know. I'm just saying. But sometimes you just out there talking. You're not really talking to anybody. You just out there talking. But you're right. There were times where AT was kind of getting into her teammates, even right there on the court. And some of that though is because some of those mistakes, whether it's untimely foul, turnovers, those things you do want to nip. You can't have them go unchecked. And then what is the balance? Because an AT that again is kind of yipping, especially if that is targeted towards her teammate, or even to another team, versus just that outward expression that is more of her normal baseline. That is something to keep in mind, because if another team sees that, they see that frustration level, then that's something that they can exploit.
Yeah, I also want to, for anyone who's watching, make sure you put your comments in. We want to see what you have to say too, as we're having this discussion, especially as we move into the Aces. Now they walk away with the dub. They're up 1 in the final series, which is fantastic, especially, well, they're at home, but, you want to get all of those wins at home. So they have a great start. But is there anything that you see that they need to improve on in that second game?
I think, we've alluded to it. I'd like to see them get a better start. Neither team shot particularly well. I mean, 70%, 76%. You want to see you be able to convert a little bit more on free throws. There were some free throws that we saw missed from the line, especially thinking of Vegas. AT, though, missed some as well, whether that had to do with an injury that she sustained or not. We know that she already has an unorthodox shot from the free throw line. Not a huge deal, but I bring it up because it's one of those things in a game, in a series like this, where free throws could make or break in a very real way how things go down the wire. So the discipline overall, I guess, is how I would characterize that for both teams. And again, the Aces, they were able to find that next gear, but what about finding it a little earlier in the game?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think there was a lot of opportunity for them to find it a little bit earlier in the game. I think we were talking about the jitters that both teams were having, and I'm not saying they were like out there, but obviously they both worked through them in some way, shape, or form. But I'm really interested to see the game 2, because without that at all, right? We've already had a game 1. We've been there. We see how it feels. We know what we need to do better going into the second. It will be really interesting how they will respond. I believe that they will respond in confidence, knowing that they've already got one, they can do this. I kind of, with the ending that game had, I hope that Phoenix responds as well, but I can just see the Aces just coming in with that Aces confidence that we know that they have, and getting that game 2. I can really see that.
Yeah, I mean, I've said it before. I think the Aces will want to really command this series as early as possible, especially knowing that they have home court advantage. We saw the comment regarding Phoenix and a must win. Now, I am one of those people that call me, you're too literal auntie, but I mean, nothing is a must win. You know what I'm saying, y'all? We got one game up in here. There's plenty of time, and we've seen Phoenix be able to bounce back. But I understand the sentiment. I understand why people kind of jump the gun with the terminology "must win" a little bit, and it goes back to what you said, the observation that you made, Alicia, that even Nate Tibbetts is like, "Yo, we need to steal one." That's plan A. But that you can't get so caught up in that then if the opportunity to tie up a series happens outside of game 1 and 2, that you don't take it. And for me, that's a little bit of what happened to Phoenix. They maybe were so committed to that first the first thing that they had in mind on that last play that they weren't able to really see the full options that were presented. So you have to be able to run with and move with urgency while also kind of playing things fluid and keeping your cool. So it's a little bit of a here and there, and why wait? Why wait? If you can take it, then you got to take it.
Right. If I'm in there and I know a championship is on the line, I'm trying to get all of them in a row. Okay. I know it's not that
Sweep,
easy. Don't get it
sweep.
twisted. Don't get it twisted. But one thing I'm really excited about is that it is a 7-game series, the first time that we've ever had that in the WNBA. So we got a lot of time for some great basketball for sure. And speaking of great, who was your X factor? Somebody who did such a great and outstanding job that you would pinpoint them as that person of the game that changed it?
Wow, this is tough because I think I don't know how to answer this question without mentioning Ka Copper. You know what I'm saying? The fact that she tied Diana Taurasi's finals record for most threes in a half, that means something to the Phoenix Mercury. You know what I'm saying? That means something for real. Now, the other side of that is that the Aces figured out a way to slow that down. But yes, exactly as Bryce is saying here, that first half just did not translate to the second half. Now, how much of that was just Ka and her performance, how much of that was the Aces? I think it's probably both, but I just wanted to note that Ka had a really solid start, and that's how Phoenix was able to get a hold of this game. We talked about it. Dana Evans, I mean, come on.
Yes, on
This is
fire.
just
Just like
a
Bruce Price
wild
said. Yeah.
Yep, a wild game for her, and much needed for Vegas because it was already a close game. You shave off even 5-7 of those Dana Evans points, and it's a whole different complexity to this ball game. So, those two stand out for me for sure.
Yeah, and when you think about the acquisition of her, acquiring her on the team, and so many people on that team, probably everybody at this point over the course of the season has said how instrumental she is and how important she is. And in her post game, which by the way, sis took off her hair tie real quick and got cute for the camera. I don't know if you saw that. I said,
Let's
okay,
go.
Dana, okay, do that then. But she talked about Asia Wilson and how on literally the first day she came to her and said, I'm so glad you're on this team. We need you. I'm paraphrasing,
Mhm.
but that kind of leadership is something that makes, and not to take away what Dana Evans did tonight because she did that. But I just love that story. And I love that she told that because obviously it was important to her. And when you see someone say that, when they've had a moment like this, 21 points, 3 assists, and 4 steals, started 5 from 6 from threes, started 4 and 4. Like when you see her talk about someone else on the team, you know that their leadership is really important to them.
Yeah, I think it's again something that we've talked about throughout the regular season, even throughout these playoffs. Asia Wilson is hitting another level, and I think the underrated part of what she's doing is that she's become a what seems to be like a phenomenal, no pun intended, a phenomenal leader. If y'all know, 1908. Let's go. But I think that is a testament to the work that Asia has put in, and also that she knows that what she's able to do on the court is because of her teammates and them putting her in good positions, and on the nights where she doesn't have it or something else is needed, because maybe it's not always, but there are times where what Asia can give, right, is canceled out by someone else on the other side. So that's why a player like Dana Evans stepping up and having that confidence and knowing, like you said, from literally day one, that the person whose team it is, which is yes, Becky Hammond. I'm not trying to disrespect Becky. It's still her team. But the player whose team it is, that's Asia Wilson. And it reminds me of the bad boy Bill Laimbeer days where he was the head coach and GM. And I think before Asia even was maybe ready to take on something like that, he made it very clear, this is Asia Wilson's team. And we've seen her on the dais cry it out, be disappointed, have very hard times in that leadership, and Bill in particular telling her that she had to toughen up, and it seemed harsh at the time. But now look, we're on the other side of what is now 4 MVPs, another finals appearance, and you just don't know that there's an end in sight. The sky seems to be the limit when it comes to A'ja Wilson, and I think the leadership, again, for me, is something that it goes under. It's underrated in what is and what she is building as her legacy.
Yeah, I think it's one of the main reasons why she's a 4-time MVP is because of her great leadership. Obviously, her abilities as a player, but that's part of it. Like, you're bringing out the best in everybody around you, and she definitely does that. Now, kind of going from the best to maybe not the worst, but like a player that you might think needs to step it up a bit. I'm gonna start on this one.
Mhm.
Jackie Young. Like, I know she was having some issues. It looked like she was cramping a bit. There were some things going on, but 10 points, 5 assists, and 2 steals isn't terrible, but it's not what we need out of her to continue to win these games for the Aces.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head, really. For all of the things that A'ja did, what helped the Aces as a team get to the point where they could be a top 2 team in the standings coming into the postseason, go on that what was ultimately a 17 game winning streak, is because Jackie Young's game was also being elevated, and her ability to impact the game for her teammates was heightened. And so she was giving that 1-2 punch that the Aces really needed. Now, we saw other players step up. I mean, again, we talked about Dana Evans there. We talked about what Jewel Lloyd was able to do, but you still are going to need Jackie Young. Now, if what she's able to give defensively opens up the court for Jewel, for Dana, then you take it. But there is likely going to be a game, if not more, where Jackie Young is going to have to find a way to do it all, and really join and meet A'ja Wilson at that level, because again, this is going to be a knockdown, drag out series.
Absolutely. Well, I guess I don't know if anybody out there that is watching has another player that they'd like to mention should step it up. We'd love to hear what you have to say. I just know that a lot of the players on Phoenix are going to go home and talk to themselves about
Mhm.
stepping it up, just because as a team it fell apart.
Yeah.
There wasn't any one player I could say didn't do their part, but as a team, they didn't play the basketball that we're used to seeing. Bryce said, I wish I saw Westbeld. Some moments I'd rather see her shoot the 3 more than Bonner, who is in a shooting slump.
Yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting comment. I think twofold. One is, again, getting more support off of the bench. Sammy Whitcomb seemed to, I thought for sure was going to exit the game, but did come back. But, without a 100% healthy Sammy Whitcomb, you do want to see someone else be able to shoot from the perimeter and keep the Aces defense honest. So I think that's an appropriate comment. But the other side of that is DeWanna Bonner has to shoot those shots. I mean, I'm gonna go back to a lot of folks got on Sabrina Ionescu for her 1-19 in game 5 or in the series. But you have to shoot those shots, whether your finger's about to fall off or not. You got a blister. If you are known as a shooter, you have to at least keep shooting those shots, because then you're gonna open up the offense for other people. If you ain't got it, you ain't got it, whether it's because of an injury or because you just haven't hit your stride yet. But players like DeWanna Bonner, who are and will be expected to score for Phoenix, sometimes you take the hit of them not hitting their efficiency, because that once the shots fall, you're going to need them. So you take this, and hope that it's just, a little bit of a slump and not something that's a little deeper. But yeah, I think, this comment about Satu Sabali, she's another player that's really going to have to step up. Sometimes her decision making, you could see that she was new to this stage. I mean, she is an Olympian. She has played at the high level in NCAA, so I don't want to disrespect that. And this is her first WNBA Finals. I mean, we could keep it a buck. She got to, you know, and was very honored to watch her sister go through it. And it's different when it's you. But we also have seen this before from Satu. She did not have a particularly good game, right, against New York. And then until recently, until tonight, right, we saw that Satu, she can definitely be a top scorer and an elite level clutch time performer.
Yep. I also want to go back to a comment that Serge had that was up, Emma. If you have that by any chance, I don't know if it could just go, okay, great news for the Aces. They won a game where Jackie Young was struggling. That won't happen again. And I'd say even Asia had an okay game. And that actually, when I read that, I was like, that is a great point. Have we even seen the Aces in their full capacity? I don't think so. And they still won the game. So it'll be interesting to see how they show up in game 2 for sure.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Now, somebody who showed up to the pregame was Commissioner. All right. We already, okay. Commissioner Cathy Engelbert showed up. And she had some remarks, and I'm going to read them. If the players in the W don't feel appreciated and valued by the league, then we have to do better, and I have to do better. And then when she was asked if she actually said players should be on their knees thanking her, and this is talking about what Napheesa Collier said in her exit interview. I'm a human too. I have a family. It's obviously been a tough week, and I just think there's a lot inaccuracy out there. It's not a no, just for the record. There's a lot of inaccuracy. She also said she didn't make the comments about Caitlin Clark's sponsor money stemming from the WNBA's platform. And she said that there are inaccuracies. Again, she used that a couple of times in remarks, in the remarks that Napheesa Collier said that she made. And she also said she's been in touch with Napheesa and that they are set to meet next week. In remarks that this week has been difficult for her personally, and adds that she's never been a quitter. So one could only say that that was in response to people saying she should step down and that she wants to fix things. When you hear these comments from the commissioner, what are your first thoughts?
I feel like the comments in a very mild way almost are they clash in some ways, because I think that there's a part of the comments for me that indicate that the commissioner, Cathy Engelbert, really does want to try and smooth things over, reiterating the emphasis on respecting the players, etc. You know, wanting to make sure that she, you know, and saying things like she feels confident that they can repair any loss of trust. But then also there almost was a little bit of doubling down. Now, you know, listen, I've been criticized and critiqued about things that I do, even on this show. And sometimes you want to clap back. I understand that completely. And, you know, I think that the difference between, you know, sometimes being able to put that to the side just a little bit and focus on what the main thing is, which this was a grievance, a very public grievance of a group of people who she says is chiefly, supremely important as far as stakeholders. That was also a part of her comments. I'm paraphrasing, but, you know, as she rightfully should, you know, players are a huge part of that. She did mention a few things with regard to officiating also, and the process that needs to change. So those things were good. You know, I guess it's a little tough for me because on the one hand, I feel like, was that the right time and place for her to maybe stick up for herself? But on the other hand, it's like, if people are kind of making comments, sometimes you do need to stand firm. So I think I'm not as bothered that she stood firm. I just wondered if it was the right avenue for that, especially because these are, this wasn't a special, let's just put that out there as well. This wasn't a special press conference. This was a press conference that would have happened even if he didn't make those comments. This is something that is a part of what we see in the league schedule. So I just want to clarify that as well. This press conference wasn't because of Napheesa Collier. It was because it is game one of the WNBA Finals.
It just happened to align with
what
was happening this week. When I hear comments like this, I kind of go to what is the player reaction, because the players know best what they hear, what they know, what they've been feeling. And Natasha Cloud tweeted after the remarks, "There's a reason all of the players are backing Fee." And I don't know if I can really add any more to that besides what a player who is a veteran in this league has to say, and
right.
Cathy also said, "I feel confident we can repair any loss of trust." And I would just hope that one would dive into why you would lose that in the first place.
Right. And again, I think that it seems to me, at least, that it's beyond just the officiating. The officiating was like kind of the final straw, or it was the accelerant in this situation, but far from the only thing. And so I heard again in those remarks, handling or making remarks that suggest that the league is going to move towards handling officiating, but the conversations or the direct action that will come from how Cathy is going to repair any trust that is lost, that was missing. And maybe those aren't conversations that we'll ever quite honestly hear publicly. But to your point, when players are, I guess I'll put a hypothetical out there. Would players have reacted differently if, if there was something specific that was scheduled, such as, would people be saying, instead of I'm leaning into what Fee said, that's why everyone agrees with Fee, or would you have someone saying, we look forward to meeting with Cathy Engelbert, she has done X, Y, and Z? Well, I don't know. Like, those are not things that we're hearing. Like you said, it's very much kind of doubling down on what is already out there and already said, which to me sounds like and indicates that probably there is still work that needs to be done to repair that trust, as Cathy said.
Certainly, there's work that needs to be done, and we will certainly be talking about it as it unfolds right here on We Need to Talk Now. But right now, we want to hear from you. We want to hear from the fans. We're going to do a little vibe check on, what you think, how you're feeling, how you like this series. What are some of your thoughts? So we want to, maybe you want to throw a question to Erica and I. So make sure that, throw any our way so that we can get a little vibe check on this game one. Do you think Dana Evans can replicate this performance in game two?
I think yes. I think there are a few different things. She has the skill set. So that's, for me, not the question. The question becomes, what adjustments will Nate Tibbetts make? And what adjustments will Phoenix make defensively? Now, another reason I say yes is because if you are Tibbetts and the Phoenix Mercury, do you almost like your chances of Dana Evans going off in that way, knowing that you could have cleaned some things up to maybe make it to where you still were able to hang on to the lead, even despite a 20 plus performance from Evans? And so that's why I think it's a twofold answer. Of course, she's capable of doing it. And will the defense give that opportunity, or will there be adjustments made?
Yeah, and I think obviously Phoenix is going to have to make adjustments, but the biggest one they have to look to is within themselves.
Yep.
Because they really lost it by themselves. I'm not saying that the Aces did not contribute. Obviously, they played a great game down the stretch, but also they kind of self-imploded towards the end. So they definitely need to retool some things. But Dana Evans can for sure replicate that. Now, Jeremy wants to know, does Phoenix need a consistent Ka Copper in order for them to win this series?
Yeah, and she's not the only one, right?
Yeah, definitely not the only one, and she knows it.
Yeah.
I mean, Ka had a pretty. What was her final stat line? I can't remember what we said. Is deep in the notes at this point, but
Uh,
um,
yeah, she had 21.
yeah,
21 with I think she can get the ball moving a little bit more
yeah,
with 1 assist, 4 rebounds. So yeah, absolutely. And that's another thing. They say a big three for Phoenix. The big three works best when the big three is tackling all three, at least three statistical categories each. So you need them to be active rebounding, you need them to be active driving to the hole, scoring, and you need them to be active in facilitation, because again, I do think that Phoenix might be interested at times, at least even in just spurts, of being able to move Alyssa Thomas into different positions in the offense, so that the ball doesn't get stuck, it can move around, especially if there are any lingering effects of what seemed to be an injury for her.
So yeah, she got to be in there. Abby, sports picks and analysis. Do you believe Phoenix will win game 2 to even the series?
Ooh.
I feel uncomfortable again, just like I did in the
I
last show.
know, I know. Do I think that's what's gonna happen? I honestly think no.
Yeah, I am leaning towards no as well. And I think there's a couple factors here. One is, how badly is Alyssa Thomas's hand hurt?
Or
That's
Sammy
gonna
Whitcomb
be,
too. That's another
yeah,
one.
Sam, for sure. That's gonna be a factor. And also I just think it's the way that you get back in that gym and see what you need to improve on as a team, not even individually. 'Cause they're better than that. They're better than they played in that second half, certainly. And I feel like the confidence, like the way that Vegas ended that game, the way that they walked out of that gym, it just felt like we're not going to lose here. That's just how I felt.
Yeah, I think also what stood out to me is that I don't remember the exact phrase that I think Asia Wilson was saying. I was trying to read her lips, but she was basically like, "That's just only one. It's only one. Like, let's not get cute out
She's
here.
been saying it's not done yet, like
That's it.
every single game.
That's it."
Yeah,
So the level of focus also for the Aces is scary, and is something that I had expected, quite honestly, since the beginning of the season. I know we talk about that a lot on the show. It just took a little while for it to simmer, marinate, get all the flavors up in there. But the Aces can be very dangerous when they lock in. They
very.
also though have some players who are they going to be okay? And then the series will shift, which I think is going to be interesting. How much of moving does that agitate some injuries? Does that help with rest for other players? Though, again, some of these nicks and bruises that we saw in game 1 that maybe are more than that, that to me is going to be a huge factor. I might be taking these picks, game to game, because I don't know if I could just be locked in. You know what I'm saying? This is too tight to call.
Well, that's how the whole playoffs has been. Like we've been calling all the wrong things and some right, like every single game. So, which game do you think has a deeper bench? I mean, certainly, I would say that we saw that the Aces definitely dove in there today.
Right. And
Today.
so like depth could mean so many different things, right? Is it how
True.
many players deep versus the players, maybe they only go two, 3 deep, but that's like we go in deep, with what
Yeah.
they have in their bag. So for me, that's a tough question, to be honest, because if Jewel Lloyd continues to perform like she's performed, then I do think, peak Jewel Lloyd really puts the bench for the Aces over the edge. I think Sammy Whitcomb can keep up with Jewel, former teammates, as a matter of fact. I think though it depends on the health for Whitcomb.
Yeah.
But because she is a massive factor, and I don't know that there's really anyone else that Phoenix trusts as much as Sammy Whitcomb coming off the bench, whereas you have a little bit more options. So that depth of the actual player personnel seems deeper on the Aces to me.
I would also say Jackie Young's foot too. We need to know what's going on with that. We
For
need to know
real.
what's going on
For
there.
real.
And
Yeah.
also we need to know what's going on with the photographer, because he got he got taken out.
No.
I don't know if you saw that, but sorry
Yes.
to
Oh
that
my
man.
gosh.
Asia checked up on him and he looked like he was okay. He put his glasses back on.
Oh
Did
man,
somebody check
it's
on him too?
no one's 100%. No one's yes, Chelsea's foot too looked like she might have gotten it rolled.
What is
You
yeah,
know,
Chelsea
so
Gray for sure.
yeah,
Yep.
so again, she taped that thing up though. So uh it's going to be a lot of recovery, ice baths, elevation, all of the things.
Everything.
And game 1 was already, and I'm glad to say that, at least for me, I don't know if you agree, but I don't think officiating has been the topic of conversation. I
No.
think the officials have adjusted. I think the players have adjusted to the officials because they had tight whistles early on. You have to set the tone. That's critically important. And then, seeing how the game opens up. I think this from Clutch Hoopers, and there was another comment similar talking about the inverted pick and roll and how Alyssa Thomas really thrives. I think that again, this it was actually Nicole Moss was with us, right, talking about how this could be about coaching.
Yes. The
And
creativity in coaching.
yes, I think that's huge. And Nate, first WNBA Finals game, and perhaps you saw it a little bit, right? The team overall, I think you saw it a little bit. So how do they counter? Because I've seen them counter, and I've been impressed with how Phoenix can get up off the mat, wipe the slate clean, and execute flawlessly on the very thing that was their bugaboo, that was their Achilles just the game before.
Well, certainly we always talk about, players going back and watching film and everything. Well, coaches do the same thing. They go back and see where they went wrong, how they can retool things, and how they can lead the team in a better way than they did the game before. So we'll certainly see in game 2 how both of the coaches lead their teams. We're looking forward to it. It's going to be a battle every single night. Our nerves are going to be tested every single night, okay? But what we do know is we're going to be right here with you. We need to talk now to talk all about the WNBA Finals. So make sure that you are locked in all of these ways. There's also going to be our QR code so you can lock right in with us. You won't miss anything. And we'll be having these conversations. I love talking with all of you and getting your questions and your thoughts as well. So make sure that you come back after every finals game right here on We Need to Talk Now, presented by AT&T.